You're listening to Cards to the Moon, a podcast about trading cards from both a collector and investor perspective. We hope you'll stick around for the ride as we take a deep dive into the state of the hobby, share some hot takes, hopefully some useful advice, and fun stories along the way. Hey guys, welcome back to Cards to the Moon. This is episode 119, and my name is Clark of 5Card Guys on Instagram and 5cardguys.com. Co-hosting with me, as usual, is John, who is Trade You at Recess. And back after a 2-week hiatus is Hyung of Integrity Sports Cards. Welcome back, Hyung.
Thank you.
So Hyung, while you were away, Will, who has become a fan favorite of the show all of a sudden, filled in for you. And along with John, sorry, you're going to say?
Yeah, we only replace with the best, right? Will's awesome. True. Yeah, he's the perfect guy.
He says he's done for 2023, but I always say we'll see about that. Anyway, last week we talked about some of the major news from the Topps Industry Conference. So off the top, we just wanted to get your quick thoughts, Hyung, on some of those announcements. So first, what do you think about the frozenfractor card that will be released, and it'll apparently be numbered 0 of 0, right? And it'll also be numbered -1 to -5.
There has to be something more than how they're explaining this. There's I didn't read in details, but yeah, this obviously I'm probably siding with everybody here. Is like what is Topps thinking? But
right.
Do we know the full story? I guess I didn't do enough research for it. If it's just the parallel, then I think it's stupid, to be honest. But then there has to be something more. Is there something about these frozen fractors that other than the numbering system or the negative numbers? What are we talking about here? Show me in. Sell me on this thing. I don't think I'm sold.
I think that's all we've heard. And then
Okay.
we joked about it that, it might be made of ice. It might be.
Yeah, there has to be something that's bigger than the gimmick of negative numbers. To me, that doesn't make any sense, right?
I mean, the numbering system's pretty unconventional. I don't know. I feel like no one thinks that's as cool as Topps probably thought it was when they were thinking of these ideas.
We're on a different level of thinking here, I think, because there's zero logic to that.
Yeah.
And Topps is like, no, you guys misread the whole thing. This is we're waiting for it. That's what I'm waiting for. What is it for? Kind of there has to be something more than the frozen fractor is all cracked up to be, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know.
Let's hope.
Or what John said, it could look amazing, and we just want it because it just looks cool.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna dog it until it comes out and I see the whole purpose, because we might be missing some parts of it. As of right now, the logic makes no sense to me, so I'll leave it at that. But never say never.
Yeah.
We'll see the product first.
I'm with you. All right. 2. Topps will be removing some of their product lines, including Gold Label, Topps Opening Day, which is pretty popular, Topps Fire, just to name a few. Any thoughts on that?
I'm okay with the majority of the listed. Obviously, there's sets like Topps Gallery and
Bowman Chromax.
Or Topps Gallery, I would say, is an older set from the 90s where you'd like to see stick around. Whereas Bowman Chromax or Topps Fire is kind of a newer set where it kind of was overkill. It really didn't serve a purpose other than kind of being repetitive. So I think it's good that they're starting to recognize that as a brand. It only took, a company like Fanatics to kind of move that direction or move that needle somewhat. But I think it's needed, to say the least. Mm-hmm. So I'm not too disappointed as long as they're not taking away. I would say opening day is a little disappointed, to be honest, because I think it's a great, entry level set for, the younger generations where you could still, pull some stuff out, and it's opening day. So, you kind of look forward to that rip, right? So,
sure.
But other than that, it's all secondary, or not. I shouldn't even say secondary. It's the 4th or 5th set the made up
Yeah.
sets that like really kind of serve no purpose, I guess.
True.
So, but it goes hand in hand, right? Then does that mean there's more parallels, for each set? Like how are they going to fulfill supply and demand? What does that
Right.
mean for autos? All these little questions, they go hand in hand. So,
Yep.
yeah,
Yep. True. Um, I don't know if this was included in the list, but I just thought of it. Like they should get rid of the tops, the Christmas edition, the
yeah,
holiday one.
the
Yeah, yeah,
holiday
yeah.
is the worst. It's like you got to
Yeah.
SSB your pump, but then it's like a candy cane, like
For a bat.
for a bat.
Right.
And I
Yeah.
know some people might be like, hey, that's cool and all, but like for as a collector, I'm not a huge fan of the kind of like gimmicky kind of
Yeah.
even like the Ben Baller Chrome. I think
Yeah.
you could do
Not
that
needed.
more
Yeah.
as like a partnership or insert or something like that, not a full set.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
I agree.
but I will say I love Chrome product over paper at the end of the day. So
Right.
if you're gonna
Fair.
eliminate the cheap paper stuff.
Okay. All right. And third, on a scale of 1 to 10, how excited are you about Tom Brady autographed baseball cards in a future set of Bowman?
Um, I don't think I'm specifically excited about the whole Tom Brady thing, autos. I think that's cool. I think there's going to be
Okay.
a space in that where collectors are going to want that because it's not like Joe Schmo here. It's, a relevant person in the hobby that, their autos demand, Tom Brady's autos demand, enormous amounts of money. So, having, like I said, we said this on the podcast earlier. We're all about innovation, and we expected a leader, an industry leader like Fanatics, to be able to use the resources to kind of make the hobby better. So one of the areas I read was like instead of redemptions, we're getting real game use stuff where
Mm,
it's relevant, where there's a chase going on, and then there's other you know things that might help the hobby in that way. I think they're making the necessary changes for that. So put in like, for instance, Brady autos. I think it's deeper than just having a Brady auto and chasing a Brady auto. It's the fact that they're doing the right things to entice the new potential hobbyist or the investor. And that's the way you grow it because we always talked about this on the podcast where, you need innovators and people from different marketplaces that kind of stir up the pot because we're very limited as a hobby and what we can do and what we can accomplish. So overall,
yeah.
like I'm all positive with the Tops Industry Conference because it's needed and it's a way that Fanatics can really communicate that to kind of like the end consumer, the hobbyist, and that's exactly what's needed, to be honest, especially in an area where we've said it was so gray. There's no regulation on anything. There's
Right.
just anything goes as of right now, and as these newer kind of like entrepreneurs come into this field and see opportunity and try to patch up kind of like the issues that the card industry is dealing with on a day-to-day basis. You know, uh, Companies like Fanatics, I think they serve a huge purpose in why they purchased Tops in the first place. So I'm all for it. I'm all for change in the industry. I know a lot of hobbyists will disagree with this, but this is how kind of like the hobby space gets better. And like for me, even redemptions, like it's this most insane thing to have redemptions. It's like you need to catch up with stuff like that where if the whole thrill in breaking and they're marketing all this is all about that kind of like big pull, having like a game used memorabilia that Fanatics has access to totally makes sense. That's what we've been saying. It's like, this is what you got to do. You got to use your resources to kind of like now better the hobby because you acquired Tops. And now it's like, instead of stuff like redemption, you have alternative chases, right?
Right.
Whether it's even like they make so much money that you could even put like something that's worth like $50,000 or whatever as a chase in a set, and one person wins that, just like how everybody chases a superfractor, right? So
Sure.
overall, like I said, I think there's so much potential in the hobby space to grow, even change the experience. We just experienced it in our own ways before, even before I came back to the hobby, breaking wasn't, I would say, a huge thing. It was common, and even razzing, for instance. These are all kind of like things that build the culture of card collecting, right? And so yeah, I just like seeing kind of like innovative changes and kind of like promises that like these big companies like Fanatics and Tops are kind of like, you could see the genuine authenticity of trying to make the market a better place. And that only comes from kind of like an external perspective, because I feel like we get trapped into the hobby. We've been in it and we kind of see it in just a
Right.
certain lens. And there's the unbiased kind of like viewpoint. I guess this is falls in the opposite of hobby logic. It's the real logic comes in and kind of says, why is this the way it is? And then,
Yeah. It's
as
good
that
to ask
happens,
those
that, yeah,
questions.
the
Yeah.
evolution of that
Yeah.
ends up getting better. So in short, I think the Brady autos are great. It's not necessarily the autos I'm talking about that are gonna make it
Right.
great. It's the concept that they're trying to, even when they're talking about the like Bowman first, for some athletes that didn't have, or like Babe Ruth or whatever, doing a
Mm.
retrofactor to kind of like post date that and stuff like
Yeah.
that. And I think it will serve its purpose because it still becomes a collectible at the end of the day, right?
Sure.
And I think that's where they're focusing the attention on truly valuable collectibles that can be looked at from a appreciation standpoint for the long period of time. So
Yeah. Yeah, no, well said, and excellent points there. I guess to your point too, one of your points, I don't mind Fanatics trying different things. You know what I mean? And they have the money that they're putting into it. So yeah, we're criticizing the frozen factor, but if it works out, that's great for
right.
the hobby. You know what I mean? Like,
And
um,
that's another thing to point out too, is like these guys aren't in it for the long haul. It's not, and I know a lot of people, throw out those comments, oh, it's a money grab. I don't think it's in like Topps Fanatics' best interest to do quick money grabs. Like,
right.
for instance, try to maximize on profits on like print runs or sets. I'm like, no, these guys are at a different level now, and
Mm-hmm.
it's in their best interest. Like they have relationships that are going to last decades in this space. So it's in their best interest to do everything the right way while there's time right now.
Sure. Sure.
Yeah.
That makes sense. All right. Well, I'm not sure if you heard, but apparently, speaking of Fanatics, they're set to make, in their words, the biggest product announcement in a generation.
Mm.
We had a few guesses on the last podcast episode, John and I and Will. Um,
What'd you guys say?
yep.
I didn't listen. Sorry, I don't listen to our podcast. We
How
just
dare
talk.
you? How dare you?
How was
Will,
it?
you're coming back on next week. I said something like it could be more experiential, like you get a card and you meet and greet, MLB players
Right,
or
right, right.
athletes,
Okay.
or it could be a big product chase, like a bounty. You know how bounties are big
Right,
these days.
right, right,
It could be something like winning a lotto. But like even that's like, is that the biggest in a generation? Like I don't know how big.
right.
What did you say, John? Did you? I can't remember. Okay, listen to last week's
Yeah,
episode.
yeah, yeah.
John's like, I don't even know what I said.
Yeah, I know.
I
I was
could,
like, what?
I mean, I could speculate. Like, it's tough because nothing will really surprise me. But again, there's so much that can happen, right? Like, it could be nothing really. It could be just hey, Fanatics is taking away redemptions, and it's like this is a
Hmm.
game changer. Or it could be like, hey, you know what? They acquire Upper Deck as well, and they get like crazy licensing
Mm.
deals with Upper Deck with autos now. Or it's like there could be so many things because Fanatics is already in that space. And if you even think about it, it's like they're in ballparks already. So think of the user experience when you go to a baseball game. Is the card culture going to be a part of that? And being
Mm.
able
I
to
like that.
experience that as a collector, it might change the way things are done. So the experience can change. But I think just in general, like Fanatics being kind of like in the memorabilia field, I would imagine that they're going to step up their game big time with stuff like redemptions and patches, and then even what you're saying. I think a bounty is necessary on top of like the superfractors. I think
Sure.
there's other ways, and we talked about this with the NFTs and stuff like that. There's that space that we haven't even gone, and I know they don't want to promote that as kind of like the leading thing, but eventually I think that's going to come into play as well. So.
Right.
Fair. Yeah.
Yeah.
It could be anything. Actually, since we aired that episode, I heard a couple of other ideas or guesses, and you kind of mentioned it, like Fanatics acquiring Upper Deck, and then you
Right.
all of a sudden could have LeBron, Wayne Gretzky
Yeah.
autos
You have to. You have
in
to.
their product.
You
So
have
yeah, that
to.
could be a huge
Yeah.
thing. Yeah.
You can't not have like the goats.
Right.
And you claim to be the space where, your high-end collectibles or even collectibles, it's like, but we don't have LeBron. It's like,
Yeah, it's kind
why'd
of
you
silly
spend
to think
those
about that.
billions of dollars then?
Yep. Well, we'll find out soon. I guess they did say it within a month, so pretty intrigued on what's going to come out, and we'll definitely talk about it in a future podcast episode. All right. With that, let's move on to hobby headlines. For today, I wanted to go back and talk about breakers and the whole business of breaking in the hobby. And I know we already talked about breakers in one of our earlier episodes, but the reason I wanted to revisit this topic is that there was recent news that TikTok decided to ban videos of breakers. All right, so now if you're new to the hobby, just quickly, when we refer to breakers, we're talking about dealers who open a box or case of a product live on camera. And to participate, you can buy a spot in that break, usually by paying for a team. And then each participant would get the cards corresponding to their team, the team that they bought, right? So for example, if you wanted a Julio Rodriguez card, you can buy the Seattle Mariners team in a baseball card break and hope the breaker rips open a pack of J-Rod in it, and that would be yours. So now back to the whole TikTok ban. The new policy states that, quote, surprise-based products cannot be opened, packaged, or assembled during the live stream, end quote. So I'm assuming one of the main reasons is probably to cut down on potential scams where some breakers aren't delivering the cards or, after they get paid, or doing some other shady business, since anyone can go live on live stream and open a pack or open a box, and then when they receive the money, how do you enforce that, right? So anyway, I want to talk about that regulation piece in a bit, but what are your guys' initial thoughts on this ban by TikTok? And do you think other platforms like Instagram or even YouTube, do you think they might follow suit?
You go, John, on this one.
Oh man. Yeah, I'm still a little. First, I'm hearing about this, so I guess I'm a little confused as to the purpose of the ban. I'd imagine, because it's unregulated, it might be a bit tricky from a money standpoint, and I also imagine TikTok might be getting annoyed of people getting scammed and then reporting certain users to TikTok, and then TikTok
Right.
saying, "Well, we can't really ban them because you're the one who paid money to them, right? That's not on us, right?" So perhaps they're tired of answering to hundreds of thousands of users complaining to ban certain TikTok. I don't know. Like, I don't really know the reason, but I could see it. I guess I could see it following suit. Maybe, I don't know. I could see it. Like, it may or may not
Yeah.
happen, but I mean, if TikTok has issues for one reason or another, I could imagine YouTube will have very similar issues, right? So it'll be up to each individual corporation, but yeah, I could see it happening.
Yeah,
So,
I follow that.
so it's interesting. I didn't even know TikTok did breaks. Like people did
I had no idea
breaks on
either.
TikTok.
Yeah.
But to me, people might not like my answer again because, I like to play on that side of the fence. But I think it's BS that, this is the whole monitoring, having entities monitor what we can and can't do. At the end of the
Mm-hmm.
day, like, it's like, why would we need someone like TikTok to determine whether breaking is allowed or not? Why can't we use, like, for instance, we're on Facebook, there's scammers, scammers are going to be scammers. It's like, and that's a small fraction of the percentage of kind of like that defines that whole, you know, video or whatever. It's not saying
Sure.
that people are getting scammed at a 50% rate. Like that, I would say that's a big issue, and that's probably something that needs to be changed. But like for it to happen, like I see it on Facebook all the time. You have groups that call out, bad practices, and they have to respond for it. And people start to be aware of this, and it's all about education, upon the new people coming into the hobby, just constantly educating, making sure that they're not falling prey to these victims. But I don't think we rely. I'm not a big regulation guy. I think that's more of it. It's like I think the people should be able to police themselves in an adult manner, and just like we do in everything in life. And I don't think we need, Big Daddy basically looking over us saying what we can and can't do, to be
Yeah.
honest. Yeah.
No, I know you're not the only one that thinks that way, especially in terms of regulation. Because that was my next question: is more regulation needed in this breaking space? An idea is like one example could be like having a license system for legitimate breakers who would receive the bulk of the product from, say, Fanatics, and like I guess the reason for this is because when there was a hobby boom, there were a lot of people looking to make money, right?
Right.
And breaking was a very easy way, but then it was also because there are so many new, like, kind of to your point, new hobbyists coming into the space. Safety wasn't a huge concern in terms of like
Right.
who to trust and whatnot. And I think it probably died down a bit because obviously everything's kind of cooled since 2021. So I'm not sure how big the problem is now, but I don't know if this is a preemptive thing by TikTok or by any platform, to like, hey, we don't, like John says, we don't want to deal with this headache of like, having complaints come in and then monitoring not just who the breakers are, but like people's accounts, banning them. But I guess they're balancing that with, these platforms want you to stay on their platforms. That's why breaking for them is actually good because it's, live stream. You're on the platform for at least an hour for some of these breaks,
Right.
and so, I'm sure they talked about whether, this is a wise decision, and we'll see what other platforms do. But I just threw out that idea of like more regulation just to keep things more safe. But on the other hand, you could argue that, it ultimately hurts local card shops that might be able to previously get allocation, but not anymore without a license.
Yeah,
And that might eliminate obviously a potential source of revenue for them, right? So,
for sure. No, everybody would get affected regardless. And I think it's tough to police kind of things. And I think that's going to be Fanatics' big challenge is allocation and who is a breaker, I guess, an official Fanatics breaker. I think that makes sense because, then they could potentially monitor kind of like the breakers there, where they
yeah.
create a process within their own system, but not use a third party to kind of like regulate that, right? Where it's like breaking's not allowed. Because then you go back into the whole concept. It's like sports gambling in general. It's like where's the regulation there? Because like literally this is a fine line. Sports cards and sports gambling is no different than you gambling on a player, or even if you're in the short term flip like we talked about, you're basically banking and gambling that this player is going to have a great spring so that you could, double up on your investment, right? Like to me, it's like, okay, let's talk then. If you're going to hold standards to standards, then there's a long list of standards that I think you're going to have to cross before, you know,
Hmm.
a breaker on TikTok. Like for me, it's like what? Like I see scammers scamming every day on like Instagram, and those are the things that I think um, systems that need to be in place where we could quickly access that data and be able to flag those accounts, but not a third party actually regulating anything. I'm against that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the more money that's involved, the government likes to step in, right? Like to your
Always.
point, um, well, when we talk about sports gambling, like there's FanDuel, there's DraftKings, the
Right.
daily fantasy stuff. That's all of a sudden very regulated now,
Right.
right? So it might go down that route. Who knows, right? But yeah, it's something to keep an eye on. And it's interesting that a platform like TikTok kind of came out first to say, "Hey, we're banning breakers." So we'll see what happens from there. The bigger question, really, just to kind of close this segment out, is what can make the breaking experience better for the customer, right? Because that's what ultimately we want as a consumer, as someone that likes to participate in breaks, regardless of what platform it is, right? So do you guys have any ideas what can make this whole breaking experience better for people that like to be involved? Or another way of asking this might be, are there breakers now that are doing a good job that others maybe should emulate?
Hmm.
I haven't, to be honest, other than specific products, like watching Phil Hughes or watching some Upper Deck.
Right.
Some YouTubers. I don't actually follow the breakers like Leighton and Backyard Breaks, so I can't really speak to the fact that what they do great or what they don't do great. But for sure, I think there's been such a fallout in consumer confidence in the whole breaking experience. So that has to come back. Like whatever, and I'm sure a legitimate corporation, legitimate company, let's call it Fanatics Live. Is it going to be called Fanatics Live? So Fanatics Live,
Right. I think so.
there is legitimacy. There is name recognition. There is like a reputation that's at stake. So I'm sure they will do everything very legitimate, but the consumer confidence is number one. And then I think what helps up the experience in general is the chases, right? If there's I think there's bounties that are created. I think communication is really big. Hyung's big on that because, let's say you win something or you get a bunch of cards, you don't hear from the breaker, even though they're legitimate and they eventually send you the cards and whatnot. But if you don't hear from them for 2 weeks,
Right.
or you try to email them, hey, what's going on? Where's the update on this? And they maybe they just don't have the bandwidth or the people power to be able to move all those cards that quickly and ship them off and stuff. So I think all of that really needs to smoothen out to really make it a seamless service, seamless product for new people to come in. Like myself, I've never entered a break, but I would probably trust like a Fanatics if I were to do a break, because seeing all of these people get burned, even with some of the big boys, I'd feel a lot more confident going with like a Fanatics or something to do the break. So they do have a leg up there. So that would be a start for them.
Yeah, makes total sense to me.
Yeah. It's tough because like everybody gets affected from it. It's like current breakers. I know like I don't know how it's gonna affect like the breaking world, but just in general, I think how to make that space better. On the opposite end of John, I've entered many breaks, and it's yeah, and that's part of it too. It's like there's a big gambling aspect of it. Like so, I know there's that where you could leave empty-handed, and a lot of people have bad experiences, especially if you do the odds. Like the odds of you hitting something like crazy is pretty low. Um, you're better, just going to the casino at that point. But people at the same time hit sometimes, right? And they hit big. I've hit big sometimes, even on razzes. So there is that aspect of kind of like a lot of gray areas, I'd say. So someone coming into the space, and I think what Fanatics is seeing is that there is a huge marketplace for it. there's a huge market cap, a lot of money being spent on this. They're saying, okay, how do we monetize off of all of this, right? And for them, it's opportunity threat, where they see a place where they could capitalize on breaks, and it's needed because there are a lot of issues with breakers and stuff like that. I've had nothing but great experiences with breakers, and that's part of the hobby I think that I like. I think it goes both ways though, where John mentioned sometimes breakers can be really slow because they're a one man operation, right? So it's like you might not see your cards for a month after your break, or maybe you want to, and I know some breakers offer like grading services, and I just feel like that what Fanatics is trying to do is just up the space in that, and I think that's where you'll attract more people, especially outside the hobby, is when you make it official, like it's an actual digital product or an experience that they're on in an app, or they're on the website where it's a casino floor. I always said like a Raz
Right.
City. You host Razes and then everybody could join whatever Raz because the availability, the way it looks, the protection, the transactions. But then again, and that's where it goes back to, okay, where's this line between where, in our province it would be the OLG, they would step in and say, hey, this is our territory. It's down all along the lines of gambling. So that's where it gets interesting. I think the delivery of Fanatics breaking and creating that user experience that never even experienced breaking. I gotta stop saying razzing; it's totally different. But like breaking, right?
Right.
So I think creating that unique experience, because people who usually enter breaks, they're always curious and they're always obvious like, oh shy, I was gonna jump in that break, but I didn't. Right. And that basically comes from just watching breaks and saying, I'm gonna join a break one day. But a lot of people coming into the space, they're like, what the heck is this? Like, how does this even work? Like, who do
Yeah.
I pay? Like, there's no direction or any way that a new person can kind of see that. And from my perspective on the whole Tops Industry Conference and where Fanatics is going, is that they're going to focus on marketing, like we said, using the tools of outside business, of outside marketplaces to implement into the card industry, plus increasing that user end experience, especially for that new collector or person
Mm-hmm.
that's not familiar with the space. So for me,
Totally.
that's where their target seemed to be, and that's how they were going to capitalize. It's not saying that they're going to sell more product and that's how they're going to make money. It's like, no, these are the 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 changes that are going to totally change the industry, but they're trying to monetize off kind of like the way they need to, because at the end of the day, they didn't make that big investment if they were going to capitalize and make money off of this, especially if they're going to, say that they're going to 10x, they're going to Grant Cardone the 10x
Right.
the industry, is, which is doable in my opinion, because you have an untapped market. You have a bunch of people running around that don't know what they're doing at the end of the day, and you know, Fanatics sees that opportunity to totally change the marketplace. And this is different than a monopoly, in my opinion, where it's not like a total monopoly, because we're talking a whole new marketplace. So of course
Mm.
somebody has to start. It's either us, 5 card guys, changing the card industry by doing these projects, or a big dog like Fanatics coming in with a bunch of
Sure.
resources and money that know what they're doing. They're going to market it properly. They're going to run it like a real business, and then they kind of like capitalize on it, right? So it's inevitable for me. Those are things that I think Fanatics are going to step up their game in terms of the user experience. So that's where I would say the most improvement could happen in that space. But then
Agree.
you do lose that kind of like mom and pop shop, I would say, that feel that, support local. It's like kind of like you're going to the mall to shop.
Sure. That's a good analogy.
Yeah.
That's a good analogy. Yeah.
I wanted to
Uh,
before you go
Go
on,
ahead.
Clark, I want to add to, so one of the things that Hyung said at the beginning of his comment was the sour taste in your mouth, right? So if somebody was to enter the break, you pay $100, $300 or whatever you end up paying for a team. and you end up getting nothing, right? And it just, if that was your first experience, you're probably not going to return, right? And I think the leg up or the big advantage that somebody like Fanatics has over any of the, even the major breakers, is that they can probably do something like the MVP buyback or like per team buyback on the spot. So if you get, you know, Mike Trout or you get Aaron Judge base card, you can Fanatics will buy it off you as a credit for $20 on the spot. Or if you get the auto, like the box hit,
yeah, good idea.
They'll buy it back, kind of like a Raz. They'll buy it back off 80% of retail value. They buy it on the spot. So it gives you a credit so that you're still immersed, you're re-immersed into the cycle of continually breaking, right? So I think Fanatics has that kind of power to offer those things to consumers to keep them engaged in the service. I don't like to, I'm not for gambling. So all of this and trying to encourage and talk about it and trying to get excited, it makes me uncomfortable because, to be honest, like I think of the many, you know, people who have issues that can't control themselves and they're spending all of their money. So there's a component of this that makes me uncomfortable, but the reality is somebody like Fanatics has those types of opportunities. You know, huge benefit over a mom and pop breaker or even some of the big breakers. So yeah, that's just something that I just thought of while Hyung was talking.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. And I mean, like with all things gambling, I guess to your point, John, you know, you got to gamble responsibly. That's why you have so many warnings when when there's advertisement for FanDuel and DraftKings. You know, there's always just a reminder to do so responsibly, right? So the same goes here. Yeah. Obviously, if this is the way things lead to in terms of breaking. For me, I feel like more practically, and it goes to your point, Hyung, about user experience. Like the tech needs to be better. It needs to streamline the process. Like it's crazy to me to see some breaks where the guy on screen is typing in their Excel sheet. You know what I mean? It's like, that is so insane to me that we're still at this point, you know, and like you can't have
that's what I'm saying. That's the culture. This is the mom and pop shop.
That's true. Let's break in someone's basement. I don't, you know, like it's.
They used to do this over the telephone in the 90s in the junk wax era.
Oh man, that's yeah. But hey, there's technology now. We can do this, guys. Someone can create, like, even the mom and pop shops. While you guys were talking about mom and pop shops, like I'm sure someone could create like an app that anyone can use. Maybe we could do this. Maybe we can become millionaires on this idea. To get an app where, you know, you just log in and then the interface is there for you. Nice and clean interface. You connect your store inventory to it. And, you know, like I'm sure there's some back-end work that needs to be done. We'll get a developer on that, you know, and just make it nice. Like, you know, you go in, I want this spot, easy to pay for. And then you got the calendar. You know exactly when the break's going to happen. That's another thing. Start breaks on time. Because, you know, there are breakers that are like, okay, it's going to be around 8 and then it's like 10:30 because other breaks are going on. And you're like, when's my break coming up? That's kind of annoying. So that also goes to customer experience, right? And, you know, like I love that point, what you said. Like the third point I had was what you mentioned, John. Like for people that skunk out on breaks, which is going to be more often than not, like if you give them a little something, an incentive to come back, that might be... you know, that might be nice. Like for Fanatics, you mentioned all those good ideas, like 50% off your favorite jersey. They got that kind of division with them too, right? So you go into it knowing that you're gambling, knowing that you could come back with nothing, but you know, you're doing it responsibly, and at the end of the day, you get a 50% off coupon, or you get credit to the next break, you know, and then you could
it's like Dave and Buster's.
Kind of.
Yeah. I mean, let's be honest, breaking is going to compete with FanDuel at some point, if it isn't already, right? So they also have to think about how can we make this experience better than FanDuel or better than going to casino. They have to start thinking that way too. So hopefully,
but you know, like I mean, that's true. But I mean, like what you know, Hyung was saying, like this is not really a monopoly where this market is so wide open that they're just first movers. So they're just like, really setting the pace. But, at some point in a capitalist market, like you're going to have competitors. And who's to say that FanDuel won't get into the breaking space? Right. You know what I mean? Like you could have other competitors thinking like, okay, we want this share of the pie. That's totally, I could totally see that happening too.
Right.
So, lots of things to look forward to, or look to see what happens in the near future, because I think breaking something, despite the ban with TikTok, I don't think it's going away, because the bigger this market gets, the bigger the hobby.
That's where the question was. I forgot where we were going with this, but it was that whole TikTok thing. But I will say overall, Clark, like I'm happy that Fanatics hosted that Tops Industry Conference. I think it's so needed. I think it gives us direction, and in general, minus the frozen fractors or whatever, I think everything was great news. It was legitimately authentic, great news overall.
Yeah, for sure. Agreed. I was telling John we need to go to Phoenix next year, next February.
I know.
Check it out ourselves.
Maybe Vegas next week, or is it
for the Mid Collective?
Yeah, exactly.
In March. I know our friend Will Chong from Dolly's. He I don't know if he went this year. He usually says he goes.
He's usually there, yeah.
But maybe we could go with him next year and check it out for ourselves. All right, let's move on now to our next segment we're calling Buy, Sell, Hold. Okay, we've done this a while ago, but as a reminder, I'm going to give you guys a list of 4 players, and you tell me if you would buy, sell, or hold their cards, okay? And I chose these 4 that you're going to hear soon because they all happen to be in the news in recent days for different reasons. And so I want to see if the news has any impact on how you decide whether you buy, sell, or hold, okay? So let's start with probably the biggest news in the last week and a half. Ja Morant, that crazy story where he had a gun on Instagram Live, and I guess he's been suspended for 4 days by the team. I just heard today that there are no charges going to be laid, so that's good for Ja Morant. But with this potential legal trouble, it's never a good thing to have this kind of thing attached to your name, this kind of bad news. You buy, sell, or hold on Ja Morant cards?
Do you guys know if his cards have dipped a lot? Probably not, I think right?
It's dipped just in general to
maybe like 10-20%.
But everything is kind of going with the market.
Right.
But
it might be
I don't
more.
know.
It might be more. I think it was a dip in general, and then this is kind of like
further dip.
Yeah, further dip maybe. I'm out of Ja cards anyway, so
yeah. Oh, I don't know how I feel. Ja was, I don't know if he still is, but he was a pretty big fan favorite. Even amongst us, I think he was high on the totem pole of people who we enjoy watching. And it's just so idiotic to watch him do the things that he's doing. And you hear about even the news. I don't know if it's true, but the news about him getting to a fight with like a 15-year-old on court and like flashing a gun or like threatening him to, all of it, just like that nonsense of like that, the thuggery that, bro, you made it. You're like upper echelon NBA. Like, why are you doing this? It's legitimately like a shake your head moment. So I don't know how I feel. Like there's so much of this where I'm just so disappointed in Ja Morant, the person, that I just don't even know how to feel about Ja. Like, I don't think I would even want to have his cards. So like, I'm not going to say sell because that's going to be a bit of an overreaction. I think I want to say hold, but there's a part of me that is thinking, should this be a buy? While everybody is thinking of the way we're thinking,
right.
And that perhaps Ja cards are going to go down 40%, and perhaps he's going to get suspended for, like he's going to be away from the game for the next 10 games or beginning of the playoffs, and you buy into his card, like a prudent or very slick investor is going to buy into his cards at 40% down. And let's say he kills it. He starts dropping 40 a game in the playoffs, right? So, and maybe people forget. So there's a component. I think I'm going to say hold, but if you guys say buy, I'm not going to blame you. I think there could be a play here.
Yeah. Hold. Okay.
Yeah. I'm hold. I'm just too disappointed that I've, as a collector, I'm just gonna say hold.
Um, I'm a little opposite of John in the sense that I don't care what he did, to be honest. Like to me, it's like, was he charged? Is it like that
No,
bad?
Right. Not
I mean,
charged.
I think
Yeah.
he was. I
I
think
think
that state had open carry, right? So that's why
right,
it
and
was like
yeah,
fine.
yeah, and I'm sure it wasn't the smartest thing to do for Ja. But then again, I think that's where my stance is on it. It's not necessarily a card would I buy, sell, or hold. It would be more like, you know what? I never put my expectations on Ja to be a role model, for instance, because at the end of the day, it's a professional sport. Like he didn't sign up to be a great role model. That comes with the territory, right? So it's
Mm.
like these guys are getting paid millions and millions of dollars. So it's like that's the way I see it. So I don't have any issues with. I know a lot of people do have issues with the moral, uh, saying that he should be like. I've heard comments like he should not be able to play basketball anymore. I'm like, what? Like, what is
It's
this?
too
Like,
far. It's too
yeah,
far.
it's like this is a
Yeah.
sport. Like, this is a business where the world's best play that sport, right? So for me, I sit on that line, so it doesn't really affect kind of like, oh, like, but then the market speaks because that's the way people think, and their thinking habits basically produce whatever result it is. So if there's a dip, I think there might be a buying opportunity if you believe in Ja. Um, I'm I'm just off in general. Like I said, I think based on pricing, the first 2 3 years of a rookie, that's the spike where there's going to be an inevitable crash in the marketplace, anyways. No matter how good Ja Morant is, you see it in Luka too. It's like prices aren't sustainable at certain levels. Obviously, there's some resistance on certain cards, but as things kind of progress and Ja becomes a superstar. He's a superstar now. He's going to be a superstar in the future. So it's just a matter of, hey, in 14 years, if he's still around and he's doing this, then absolutely, I'd say, yeah, that's where you probably want to buy. But like for the short term flip, I'm gonna sell. I'm gonna say he's a sell right now on that.
Mm.
But like I don't like him as a long term hold or anyone really that hasn't established their career to this point because like I said we harped on market corrections happening and when corrections happen real prices occur so there's no more of the fake hype of anything especially during this recession we're in it is what it is and I think prices are going to be exposed for this and I don't think Ja Morant prices are going to ever get back to where it used to be
Mm.
in 2019.
Yeah. No, I hear that side of the argument too. I think before the news, I was not actively, but I have always have a couple of Ja Morant cards on the watch list. And then with this news, it kind of spooked me. I'm going to be honest. It kind of spooked me in terms of like what it could do to the price of his cards, and whether it's not knowing the full details of the incident, but is this going to be an ongoing thing with Ja? You don't want to deal with that, obviously. So, but at the same time, I was also thinking, like you, John, like if prices are dipping hard, there might be a good buying opportunity. So I was kind of looking at, like, for instance, the Optic Holo PSA 10, and it was hovering around 350 to 400 for for weeks. And then the most recent one sold March 7, which is a couple days ago, for 220.
It's a great
Dang.
deal.
I'll buy at that point.
Right.
Like at to the lower middle end of Jack cards, and I think if he straightened things out and he just does well, like I expect him to on the court,
Right.
I feel like that's that's worth at least picking up. I'm not so sure about high end cards. I'm not willing to go there, like in terms of national treasures or like I'm not definitely staying off those. But there's certainly a play on the lower end. I think so. I'm gonna
That
say
makes
buy.
sense. That does
Yeah.
make sense on the lower end stuff. And that's what I noticed about like these superstar cards like Ja. Shohei, it's like if you want their high end stuff, good luck. They'll
Yeah.
never go down, but then the low end stuff is so volatile. So there might be a good buying opportunity on that low end stuff. Like that Optic Hollow at one point was a $1,500 card, maybe
Yeah.
more.
1852.
There you go.
And now it's
So
now
yeah,
it's 220.
there might be opportunity in that sense, but then like his Tiger Stripe, it ain't going down.
Yeah, I mean, like the people that bought at that price, they're like, oh, might as well hold anyway.
Yeah,
You know,
I
you're
think
not
majority
gonna
is
sell.
there. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, let's go on to. We always talk about this guy usually in conjunction with Ja, Zion Williamson. You know, I sold his card before the season, feeling bad in the first couple months because he was killing it, and I'm like, okay, now I remember why I sold it because he cannot stay healthy. Like the guy is. Yeah. So Zion Williamson, are you buying, selling, or hold?
I am. I mentioned this. I think the last time we talked about Zion, I was the one that was like, no, not on Zion because I can't trust. And here it is again, man. He gets injured. We don't know the injury update. They keep kind of like flirting random news, and it looks like he's probably out for the season, but he's not out for the season. Sell. I honestly, to me, Zion, I don't know. I'm sell. I would sell, and I would probably be totally off Zion until I can see 1-2 really good solid seasons with no injury. Otherwise, I'm not coming back in. So I'm a sell. And to be honest, I've always been the believer that Zion is more on the spectrum of Blake Griffin, Dominique Wilkins than he is Michael Jordan, LeBron James. So even still, for me, I'm not even a big believer that Zion is the next LeBron or anything like that. So I'm a sell regardless. So sell either way. Yep.
All right,
It's an easy one.
Yeah, I think I'm a sell as well, just because corrections, Zion's prices were astronomical, and I know they're still coming down, but and it's probably the same trend. Low end stuff might be really cheap, so there might be an opportunity there. Higher end stuff, it's going to be probably still pretty expensive. So I definitely sell the higher end stuff. And then maybe, use Clark's method to, snipe a couple cheap, hollows or something like that and make a decent profit.
Yeah. I'm a little like, I just, I'm tired of Zion. Like I don't want to deal with him anymore. But the only exception for me, so I'm generally a sell as well. But the only exception is like if the Silver Prism goes down, I feel like that card could be iconic. Even if Zion just plays a little bit well, that card specifically with the image. Like everyone knows that image, modern collectors. So that's the only card I might buy in if it's like right now it last sold for $700. If it goes below $500, I might be interested just to pick it up and
Don't do it. Don't do it.
Don't do it. It sold for $6,000 at one point.
That's crazy.
So under $500, we'll see. I'll keep it on the watch list. All right, another guy that's kind of injury prone lately, KD, Kevin Durant, plays for the Suns. Like all of a sudden, the favorite to win it all. Like that team is, ridiculous when all of them are playing with CP3, Booker, KD, just Ayton. Too many weapons. You don't know where they're gonna go. But then he had this freak slip during warm-ups, and now he's kind of sidelined for who knows how long. It might be a game or two, but. Do you trust it? You know what I mean? Like it's very fragile at this point. Right. And KD prices have been dropping a ton lately.
I want to say one thing. I'm so annoyed. I don't know about you guys. I don't like how NBA allows teams to be very coy about injuries. Like in right. The NHL, you get injured, it's like 4 to 6 weeks. They provide a direct timeline. They provide exactly what's wrong with the player. But in NBA, they're like just so coy, like sore ankle. He's out for, we don't know. And then there's rumors by Wojnarowski that he's out for all the way, the rest of the season. And everything's always just rumors. And I don't know if you guys play fantasy, but that's another annoyance in fantasy. Like LaMelo Ball could be out for like 3 months. you never know when he's coming back. All of a sudden he's back. Like he's just like there's no rumor about him working out or like doing well or progressing, and all of a sudden he's just back playing again, right? So I just wanted to rant a little bit before I talk about Kevin Durant, but I think Durant, this could be another kind of potentially slick move for an investor, because I'm sure people are going to be a bit off of Durant. And let's be honest, his price might have ballooned a little bit after the Suns trade, so this could be the correction that it needed. But he could be like Ja, where he's done for the regular season, but potentially roars back in the playoffs and people completely forget that he was off and all of that. So I think there is a play here. But when I think Kevin Durant, I think a little bit more long term. I wouldn't use Kevin Durant as a short-term play. That's just me. I would think of him more as an all-time NBA great and think long-term. And for me right now, in his current state, he just keeps getting injured too much. And I think I'm a bit worried in the long term. Let's say you're a 3 to 5 year Kevin Durant investor, or like even a 2 year. I could see his prices continually correcting, because I don't trust anymore that Kevin Durant is going to be healthy for the remainder of his career. He could be a Kawhi Leonard playing 45 to 55 games for the rest of his career. So I'd rather wait. I'd rather wait 2 to 3 years to get into Kevin Durant when his prices really start to crumble. So yeah, I'll say sell on Kevin Durant.
So
I'm gonna say that does kind of like I guess worry me with KD, is like ever since his Achilles injury, he really hasn't played a full season on that, and he's approaching mid-30s now, and it's like, hey, this might be kind of the tail end of his career, but is his career good enough to be considered one of the all-time greats, right? And for me, there might be opportunity there in the long term, like John was saying. I definitely don't see KD as a short-term play. I think it's definitely a long-term play that if you believe in Durant, then it makes sense, because for me, there probably won't be a better buying time other than if he absolutely goes to crap and he's not playing anymore, and then his last few years become kind of like what people remember it as, where there's going to be a even further dip. But I think in general, with the Phoenix news too, his cards in general have gone up. But there's stuff like the refractors, BGS 95 refractor, his Topps Chrome, that I think there's like potentially good opportunity just long term. Just kind of like enjoy the card. It's he's established his legacy, and kind of like just kind of go with it. I'm in part of that, but I do say it does worry me. Not necessarily worry me, because I think he's done enough in his career that solidified it to be a valid career and a pretty damn good one. So yeah, I'm long term with KD regardless. So I would say if the opportunity is in the right place, he's a buy for me, buy or hold.
Yeah.
Makes
Yep.
sense.
I hear both your points, and I feel like the last time we did KD buy, sell, hold, like I'm always looking for the Topps Chrome refractor, because it's been plummeting, and PSA 10s go for 8K, so still it was almost 60K at one point, so 8K now.
Are you talking about the silver,
the
refractor,
Topps Chrome
right?
refractor?
Yeah.
Numbered to 1499. The BGS 95s at 3600. That had a little bounce up probably when the Phoenix Suns news came in, but went as low as 25, 22, 23. Okay, so I've been looking, but then the more I think about it, I think I'm gonna sell. I'm saying sell, even for the long term. I agree with you guys, like, and I've said it on the show, like KD, his stats speak for themselves, but there are just people that just don't like KD. Like, he's a guy that's very polarizing, and the people that love KD. But when I think about it, is there enough people like that are willing to invest in KD cards long term? They might just be pure basketball fans that love KD, and I don't think there are enough, to tell you the truth, enough hobbyists, enough card collectors that are hardcore KD fans. And I think the prices will continue to go down, especially in the last. For sure, I agree with you. 3 to 5 years. Like if he stays in the league that long, I doubt that he's going to have a full season in any one of those. So it'll just generally trend downwards. But even after he retires, I mean, unless people start more people start loving KD, then I don't think there's a huge value even afterwards. That's what I'm beginning to think. But yeah, one of those guys that I believe deserves much more respect, but doesn't get for whatever reason. Well, I mean, there are reasons. But he's very brash on social media, but whatever. Okay. All right. Lastly, before we go to our pick one, quickly, Derek Carr. He's got signed by the New Orleans Saints, probably the biggest QB signing to date. We're all waiting for Aaron Rodgers, seeing where he's going to go, maybe to the Jets. But Derek Carr, he was pretty, like, even last season with playing with Devontae Adams, his former college player. Like, that season was a bust. Does this make you go back on Carr signing with a new team with a new contract?
Very easy. This is a sell all the way. Your card was $0 and now it has pumped some life into it and it's worth $20. Take advantage. I think even if prices haven't gone up, there is a level of liquidity that has improved, right? I think previously there was only one buyer of Derek Carr. We all know who that one buyer is, Vegas Dave. Now with this news, there might be 100 buyers. So you take advantage of that liquidity and you sell the heck out of anything you own of Derek Carr.
That was an easy one for John. Okay.
Yeah.
I was originally in that camp too. But being at off-season football and also kind of like the hype building again with a totally different offense, and Carr was kind of like a Raiders kind of like only kind of like legend. It's outside of that, he really didn't win, and that's what we talked about in football. It's like if you want to be a considered a great quarterback or greatest of all time quarterback, you gotta win at the end of the day, especially the rings. So I could see in the off season a lot of hype coming into the season with the Saints, with Carr. So there might be opportunity during this off season. John is right. Right now is probably a good time to sell. If you're not going to sell, there might be a dip within the summer that allows a bit of Derek Carr hype at the beginning of the season to make some profit in the short term. But me, long term, like I think it's definitely a trap, and it's a good selling opportunity regardless in the next, I'd say, half a year. So I'm on the mind frame of selling, but if you like doing those short term flips, then I think there might be a buying opportunity in the summer.
Yep, makes sense to me. I'm going to make this quick. It's going to be a sell sweep, super easy. For all the reasons that John said. And you know what? That being said, I mean, I was pretty off of Jalen Hurts, and you know what happened this past season. So this could be this year could be the Derek Carr year, where I just off of Derek Carr, and the Saints are going to the Super Bowl this year. That's my prediction.
Yeah.
All right, that was quick and easy. Buy, sell, hold segment. We'll do this again with newer players next time. All right, let's finish off this show with our regular weekly segment we call Pick One. And in this segment, we each put up 2 cards, and then we debate which one we would rather invest in. And since Hyung is back, do you want to lead things off for us?
Sure, I'd be delighted to, because I've been even though I've been MIA on the podcast, I've been not MIA on my eBay account, but I haven't really bought anything. That's the crazy part. I've been spending some serious hours on it, so it's always tough to find a good Shohei Ohtani, especially the 2 exhibition games. The WBC Japan looks unbelievable. Like I think they might win it all. But finding a good Shohei is very difficult. Especially I find like his stuff is overpriced, but I call it the Shomo. I guess that FOMO, but like with Shohei. But I guess that sounds something differently too. So we'll disregard that. Shopping for Shohei. That's what I call it. We're gonna go put two cards that are somewhat affordable in a PSA 10. we're going with the 2017 Bowman Chrome Mega Box. So this is him in his WBC Japan uniform. So before any of his flagship rookies came out, a PSA 10 recently sold for $850. Right? Would you rather have that Shohei or a 2018 Topps Heritage Chrome Refractor, number 569, a PSA 10 sold for 900? So if I'm looking for a nice Shohei under $1,000, and I kind of limited to those two cards, which one would you guys go with?
I always thought that 2017 Mega Box Japan Shohei was very underrated. I personally do like that card. But the Heritage Chrome Refractor numbered at a 569 PSA 10 under $1,000, that, I don't care how cool the Mega Box is, that is a steal all day long. And I hope that another one is out for like $900 because I will grab that. That is an insane price at 569. I think that's the card to go for. So as much as I do like the Mega Box, a numbered Heritage Chrome Angels Uni, Major League Rookie Card numbered at a 569 refractor, easy choice. I think that's a steal.
For me, I think I might be biased. Like, WBC is fun to watch, but like when it comes to baseball cards, it's MLB stuff all the way for me. And plus, it's numbered. Like in this market, I don't want like manufactured scarcity. I want actual scarcity. So like the numbered cards are what I'm kind of narrowing my searches down to. Especially in this market. So for me, it's an easy one. The Heritage Chrome numbered to 569.
Interesting.
We know what Hyung's gonna buy tonight on eBay.
No, I mean I look at like some of the sales, and the Mega Box like green, for instance, like I think sold for like 3,200, like ridiculous. It's really expensive.
Right.
And I never viewed that card as like a big card. I always loved Chrome Heritage. Like Heritage Refractor is one of my favorite cards. I know I bring it up a lot on this pod. It's not the most expensive card, but it's such a classic OG, especially if you like the Heritage. But I think that Japan card might have more legs than the Heritage, but I don't think I'd ever buy it either. I think I think it's the same thing. It's like I don't know if I'd do the whole WBC. I think it's a cool collector's piece, though. I don't know. I'm not sold on it, is what I'm saying. Whereas the refractor, Chrome Refractor Heritage, I really like that card. I really just like refractors in general. And to your point, the numbered cards are more desirable right now. So I'm gonna go with the Heritage Chrome as well. I think it's just sweet. Yeah.
Cool. Well, speaking of the WBC, the home run on one knee was pretty impressive by Shohei.
That's why
dead center.
Because I seen that. I was like, this guy is insane. I gotta grab something.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was pretty awesome. All right, John, you want to go next?
Yeah. Okay, guys, we're going back to hockey, and we're gonna do some baller grail purchases. So you've got the all-time great 1979 OPG Wayne Gretzky PSA 8.5, which is a very rare grade for PSA. It's a Pop 42. Last sold for just under $27,000 versus Connor McDavid Future Watch PSA 10. Last sold for just under $34,000, a pop of 79. For all intents and purposes, these two cards rarely make it out onto the open market, but if they do, I'd imagine either or could go for around $30K each. So I think it's a pretty fair comparable.
All right. I can go first here. Actually, this is kind of easy for me. I'm going to go with Connor McDavid. PSA 10, autographed. I love watching him play now. It's cool to hold on to while actually watching him enter his prime even. And number to 999 again. Even with the great one, like I don't in this market I want to go for the one that's numbered, like the actual scarcity is there for, and it's a PSA 10, so that makes it even more scarce. So yeah, I mean. And then, like if I'm really nitpicking with Gretzky, right? The 8.5, not a huge fan of that grade. And, like even the Gretzky OPG card, like the grading just is for that card and specifically just seems to be way off. Like I don't even know how the PSA 10s are 10s, the couple that exist, and even the 9s and the 4s and like it's just, I feel like I guess it's a hard card to grade. I guess that's the only explanation for it. So I don't believe in the grading, especially with this with the Wayne Gretzky OPG. So I'm going with McDavid.
I'm gonna do the same thing actually. It's just the relevancy of, McDavid, and also I think it's a bigger card if it's all said and done. Like there's more legs for that card than it is the 8.5. PSA 9 would have been more enticing, I think.
I wanted to actually, to be honest, when I thought about this, I thought of the PSA 9, but when I looked it up, the last PSA 9 just sold for like 140,000. So I'm like, okay, I can't make that comparable. But yeah, I would have loved to have, if it was apples to apples, PSA 9 would have been obviously a better.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, is that's a freaking expensive card for McDavid at the end of the day, $30K. But like you said, he's generational talent, and if he's the next Gretzky-esque or type, you want one of the best cards, which is his SPA, right? So, I'm gonna go Connor McDavid on this one as well.
I don't know how this one's really hard. I'm still very 50-50. I think the natural choice, if you'd ask me legitimately, you put these two cards in front of my face, let's be honest, I'd probably pick the McDavid. But I want to I'm going to 51% choose the Wayne Gretzky. And I've been watching some YouTube videos of like card shows and stuff. And surprisingly, I don't know if you guys noticed, and these are like American card shows, people are talking about hockey. Like hockey seemingly has a bit of some momentum going for it, right? And obviously, my advice before was if you're going to collect hockey, it's Connor McDavid, right? That's the main character. He's the Charizard of hockey. So I'm kind of going against my own advice. But $30,000, like for me, I'm literally selling my entire collection, everything I have, to buy one card. And if I'm doing that, I think unless you're a baller, like unless you spend $200,000-$300,000 on cards, and this is a blip in the radar, for me it's a little different. This is a legitimate grail. I would have to sell off everything to own just one singular card, and if I'm gonna do that, I think I want a bit more security. Just like Shohei Ohtani, he's a unicorn. He could be all-time legend until he has back-to-back knee surgeries and he doesn't play more than 40 games for the rest of his career, right? So I think with hockey kind of looking like it's coming in the spotlight, the Wayne Gretzky is very underrated because I think people kind of compare it to the Fleer Jordan. They put it in the same space. But the thing that people don't realize about the Gretzky OPG is there's no high grades. They don't exist. This is in a similar boat as like a 1950 vintage card where like PSA 9s just don't exist. Like 8.5s, there's 42 of them. Like these pops don't exist, right? So I think when that starts to come into the forefront, when this Gretzky card becomes more and more, and which it has been because the PSA 10 sold for 1.1 and then it sold for 3.2, so it's getting into that space. And then PSA 9, like literally last month, just sold for 140, all-time record. So I think I think there is a lot of merit to picking the Wayne Gretzky here, and I'm gonna by 51% pick the Wayne Gretzky.
All right, 51%. Okay, that was a good one. That was really close. All right, we'll finish off with mine. So on one side, you got the 2000 Tom Brady Playoff Contenders rookie ticket autograph card, the iconic rookie auto card for Tom Brady. BGS 8.5 sold a couple days ago for just under $25K. It's another baller 1v1. And then on the other side, the 2022 Topps Cosmic Chrome autograph variation Superfractor 1 of 1 of Julio Rodriguez, but it's graded PSA 9 and is autograph 10.
Oh man, you lost me at Cosmic.
It's a Superfractor.
You lost me
PSA.
at Cosmic.
But look at the card. It looks decent.
I don't lie. When people pull in this, I was like, "Oh, that's a really nice card." I'm still gonna go with the Tom Brady.
Okay.
Even though it's a Superfractor of Julio, like if it was Topps Chrome, Superfractor auto without the Cosmic, then yeah, I'd probably go with the Julio. Obviously, on the price point would be very different, but I think it's a nice card. But from an investment standpoint, I like the Tom Brady playoff contenders better, to be honest.
All right.
Even though that's like insane, like for BGS 8.5. But yeah, you just don't know with Julio, right? Like, I mean, if it's a short-term play, it's like, how are you going to auction this off? And if that, you're going to get 24,000. You could come out of this Julio with somebody might be willing to pay 10,000 at the time, and you might be eating a loss pretty good because of the cosmic flavor of Chrome. So
Yeah.
I'm going to go with the Tom Brady. Just can't do the cosmic. Sorry.
Yeah. I think Clark
Damn.
put up this 1v1 just to show whoever bought that Julio is an absolute idiot. That's the point that Clark is trying to make. This is hilarious. I mean, you got $25,000. I get it. The Brady is not volatile. Your money may or may not move. There's not so much upside. But guess what? The Cosmic has zero upside. There's zero upside to that $25,000 tag. I think, truthfully, Julio, we've talked about Julio's got a lot to correct. And Cosmic is one of these cards that will correct. I think this is, let's be fair, like this is probably like a $3,000 to $5,000 card. Like that is not a $25,000 card. So if I'm spending $25,000, there is no question I am taking the Brady playoff contenders. 1,000 out of 1,000 times. Yeah. I will say it if Clark doesn't want to. Whoever bought it is a complete idiot.
I don't want to. Hey, they might be a podcast listener, so I don't think you're an idiot if you're a listener. All right, I think you have a lot of money. That's what I think. but yeah, I'm gonna go for the Tom Brady. I thought I could get you with the 1 of 1 Superfractor, Julio. If the Mariners, how about the Mariners go all the way? I mean, they have a pretty decent team, but all right, it's gonna be an easy sweep. All right, well, that wraps up a long episode of Cards to the Moon. We thank you as always for joining us, and as always, if you enjoyed the show, we appreciate if you gave us 5 stars wherever you listen to your podcast, and we'll see you next week for a brand new episode. Bye. Hey, thanks for listening to Cards to the Moon. We'd really appreciate you subscribing to our podcast wherever you listen to your podcasts. And you can also connect with each of us on Instagram at 5cardguys, or you can follow Hyung at Integrity Sports Cards, or John at TradeU at Recess. You can also check us out at 5cardguys.com. Thanks again, and hope to connect soon.